Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down. As you can see, I am fresh out of the AMC Theater in Port Chester. It says AMC back there. It's probably kind of blurry because it's so small, but I wanted to stand somewhere where there were less people because I just saw a movie for the second time finally, and I was like, you know what? Let's do another fresh out the theater, but spoiler review. I want to touch on a couple spoilers from this movie. We'll get into a full spoiler review at a later date, but I wanted to hit a couple things about this movie while it's fresh in my mind while I'm at the theater. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-filled. This video's got to be spoiler-filled, so if you ain't seen it, leave. go see the movie, then come back. I got a non-spoiler fresh out the theater review that you can see for it right up there. But we are getting ready to dive in spoiler-filled into Spider-Man No Way Home. And yes, I'm gonna answer the biggest question, thing I've been waiting to talk about the most since I've seen this movie. Freaking Danny Rojas is in the MCU. That's right, if you are a Ted Lasso fan, Danny Rojas, he is in the MCU. He shows up in the first post-credit sequence that features Venom. He is a bartender on the island that Venom goes to at the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And he kind of has a conversation, and a little piece of goo stays behind as Venom disappears to another universe. I have two thoughts about that. One, potentially that little piece of Venom that's left behind could end up on Danny Rojas, and Danny Rojas could be the Venom of the MCU. How crazy would that be, right? Secondly, I think that we are going to see Tom Hardy in a Spider-Man movie. For sure. It's definitely going to happen. I got bigger thoughts about all of that. We'll do in a separate video on the post-credit sequences. But now that I have the fact that Danny Rojas, I don't know the actor's actual name. I'll have to look that up and mention that in the spoiler review. But the fact that he is in the MCU is one of the most amazing things of the year for me, being such a big Ted Lasso fan. So, okay, that one's out the water. Maybe we should talk about the second biggest spoiler in this movie. Everybody wants to know. If you do not want to know this right now and you haven't seen the movie, you don't want spoilers, leave, because I'm about to reveal the biggest question that everybody that hasn't seen the movie is wondering. Is Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home? The answer is yes. Oh, yes, they are, and it's absolutely amazing. When I did my fresh out the theater review, and maybe even when I did the non-spoiler, I mentioned that there was like about a 20-minute stretch that was kind of like fluff, a lot of fan service. That is like 20 minutes of the three Spider-Men just chilling, man. But I loved it. The way that they use the two characters is phenomenal. The way it plays into Tom Holland's Peter Parker story, our Peter Parker, in the MCU, is brilliant. What they bring, the moments that they get and they give them. The fact that they acknowledge it's weird that Tobey Maguire has, like natural web shooters, is one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, man, where they just kind of jump, it's Garfield humble, like, what? I don't understand. That stuff is great. And I gotta say, the way that they bring them in is genius. I love that we get Andrew Garfield coming in as Spider-Man, and we get Tobey Maguire coming in as, Garfield, Spider-Man says, dressed like a youth pastor, as Peter Parker, because I think if you ask anybody, the better Spider-Man of the two of them is always Andrew Garfield. The better Peter Parker was always Tobey Maguire. And I like these versions of the characters, man. It's one of these cool things where the movie gives them the ability to get some redemption, at least for Andrew Garfield's character. There's a lot of redemptive moments, and it's one of these things where, Twitter and the social media world wasn't the same when Tobey was Spider-Man, but we understand how much it hurt for Andrew Garfield to lose that role. And they just basically lost it because nothing else other than they wanted Spider-Man in the MCU. So to see him come back, see his emotions, that stuff was amazing. I'll get more into those two guys in my full spoiler review. But as far as Tobey goes, he's a brilliant older Peter Parker. The older guy in the room, the elder statesman, naturally is a really good older Peter Parker. I think as a mentor figure and what you could do, I really liked him. I thought his comedy was on point even more than it was when he was actually Peter. And I loved everything that they had going on there. And the one thing that ties in with those two guys to Tom Holland directly at the end is the last spider suit reveal. Oh, I thought I lost my hat. I didn't. It's still on me. But is the last spider suit reveal? It's a combination of Garfield's kind of shiny blue, the classic red of Tobey, the logo of Tobey on the front, Andrew's logo on the back, and then Tom Holland's Spider-Man mask. It's so cool. We only get like little glimpses of it, but it's beautiful. As far as the rest of the movie goes, I have said from jump, this is a Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Tom Holland story, and it really is, man. And from a Peter Parker standpoint, it's the best stuff I've ever seen from Holland. He has to deal with a lot of emotional weight in this movie, and everything that he does, it's the most mature, it's the most seasoned version of the character, and I think it's the best performance that he's turned in as Peter Parker, but as Spider-Man too. Like I said, the stuff that they do with him, specifically in the third act, the two other boys show up about halfway through the movie, so they're in about half of it, so you get a good amount of time with them, and the visuals around when they're in the third act, and that action sequence at the end is stellar. We get some wonderful money shots, but as a Spider-Man character, like, there's a moment where he gets to thank them on screen and hug them, and you just get, like, these Easter egg moments, where they point at each other, and just all these wonderful Spider-Man things. And the movie is so aware of Spider-Man, this one, the things that came from those movies, the movie is aware of it, and it points at it, and it points fun at some of those things, and at others, it kind of addresses issues like the fact that all the villains tend to die, and that's just not the Spider-Man movie, or at least the original trilogy, but a lot of movies around that time that were in the superhero realm, and the fact that Peter's mission is to save all of these villains, to not send them back to their timelines to die, but to cure them and give them a second chance. It's such a cool story, and it really grounds Peter, and you just get wonderful moments for him as Peter Parker and Spider-Man the whole movie. As I said in my non-spoiler, fresh out of the theater, Marissa Tomei, what a wonderful Aunt May she is. I don't think she's ever gotten enough credit, and she gets to utter the line, "With great power comes great responsibility," and everything that surrounds that entire sequence is just some of the most stellar stuff you get performance-wise from her and from Holland. You get these things with her that just it really, I think, cements her as one of the best. And like I said, everything that comes in and around that moment and how it plays into the movie just really, really hit for me. And I guess the one other big spoiler to talk about is the fact that Andrew Garfield gets a chance of redemption. We said there's a lot of redemption. Pete dives. We've seen it in the trailer after MJ. He gets hit by the glider, and MJ's fallen to her death, and Andrew Garfield saves her. That's amazing. But then Ned is also falling, and the movie points out that there's a trend with people falling a lot, which is one of those Spider-Man things I dug. But Ned falls, and Strange's cape saves him, because in the movie, after Peter has a wonderful that's the other thing, man, they hit the science stuff so well, man. The whole Strange Spider-Man sequence is one of the best sequences in the movie, and the fact that when he's in the mirror dimension, he figures out that geometry and math can save him, and that's how he traps Strange there. Genius. But he takes his sling ring as well as that box that has the spell in it, and the sling ring ends up with Ned, and Ned can cast he's magical. He mentions it early in the movie to Strange, and it comes back around, and he's able to open portals, and that's how you get the two other Spider-Men in the movie. He's just looking for Peter Parker. He wants to see Peter, and first you see Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and then you see Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. But that was so cool, and to see the cape land on him, that was awesome. Another cool moment for the cape, it catches Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well at one point, and when it does that, it kind of gave you a vibe of What If. There's some wonderful What If nods in the second post-credit sequence, which is actually the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer. You see the world coming apart the way that it did in What If, and we see some dragons come out of Strange's arms. We see Shumagorath, I think is the correct term, but that is the squid monster, the tentacle monster from What If. We see him in its full shot of him. It is glorious. But then we also get to see Strange Supreme, baby. That's right. What If is legitimately crossing over and is going to come in the Multiverse of Madness. We also see Wanda, and the initial take is Strange asking for Wanda's help. He's not there because of what happened in WandaVision. He's there to ask her for help because of the multiverse. And we're getting glimpses of the multiverse, and we also get glimpses of Wanda as the Scarlet Witch. I have a feeling she's going to be bad in the movie, but the initial take from Strange is, I'm asking for help. But yeah, man, just everything that's in this movie, man. The action sequences are amazing. The usage of the villains is unbelievable. I really love that Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe were able to come back, but I think the person who gets the most justice done for him is Jamie Foxx's Electro, man. That story of Max's and how it ties into Andrew Garfield showing up and where it ultimately leaves him, because, spoilers, Tom Holland does cure all of them. He gets to cure all of them, and you get these wonderful moments where you get to see, Dafoe go from Goblin to Osborn so fluidly, and you get these moments where they all get to see their Spider-Man, you know what I mean, and interact and react to them. It's really cool, and how they just team up and how the whole thing looks visually. It's just stunning. It's amazing. It is an Endgame level movie, but for Spider-Man. And it was absolutely wild. The second time, it was interesting. I had a sold-out theater, but it is Tuesday after the movie came out on a Thursday, so not your typical comic book crowd, and there was very little cheering just when, the two guys showed up, pretty much, and then when you got all three of them together. But the cheer levels in the theater were not that big, and you could tell it wasn't a comic book crowd. And you could tell that they weren't picking up on a bunch of things that my crowd, and certainly I, picked up on watching it. But it was fun to see regular people just flock to see a Spider-Man movie, because it's the biggest thing in the world, and COVID is surging again, and you should all be safe. AMC's got masks back on in the theater. These theaters are packed. I double mask when I go. But to see COVID surging and to see people just saying, I need to go see Spider-Man still, it's so cool, man. I'm telling you, him and Batman move the needle like no one else. But yeah, for a fresh out the theater spoiler review, a little treat for you guys. This movie's awesome. I can't believe it's one of these things where we knew where a lot of this stuff was coming, and you just sit there and you go, I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that. And any moments, like I said, where it slows down. I mean, there's a sequence with all the villains getting together. That's a little fluffy, but it's something you need to do, and it's what makes it feel like the biggest Spider-Man world building and the biggest Spider-Man movie. And they're in the rips in time, you can see some other villains, for sure Kraven the Hunter, for sure Rhino. There were a couple other villains. I still can't quite make them out. I gotta find images. But there are villains coming, man, and I'm kind of pumped to see how it'll all play into the overall universe. I got some theories, I got some thoughts. We'll do those separately. But for my spoiler review, man, those are pretty much all my main spoiler thoughts. I think I hit on everything I wanted to hit on. The biggest thing, obviously, the end. What solves all of it. What makes everything go back to normal. Peter sacrifices everything. And it's what makes Holland's performance so big, so mature. His best one is he goes through everything. He has almost everything, and Osborn tells him, or at least Goblin tells him, like, you're trying to get everything you want, you can't have it. And to save the world, he gives up everything. He says, let people not remember Peter Parker, and everybody will forget me. And that means his friends. That means Doctor Strange. And that's an emotional moment. And there's a lot of emotional moments in this movie for Pete. But that's one that just hits and makes this the best Spider-Man movie. It's things like that, man. The John Watts and McKenna, and I can't think of the other guy, but that team, man, they understand this character so well. This movie's phenomenal. It's one of Marvel's best. It's easily, I think, the best Spider-Man now, having seen it twice. I'm going to say it's the best Spider-Man. It just gives you everything you want, and I think there's a pathway for more Andrew Garfield movies. There are rumors starting to circulate about that. I would like to see at least one more Tobey movie, and then maybe after Holland's trilogy, you do a full-on Spider-Verse movie, so you can get those three guys on the red carpet together. You can get them on the interview circuit. Like, that's the stuff we missed, and that's the stuff I hope we get as we get to see more Spider-Man. I'm so excited for this world. And much like Batman, it's a world that you can carve out on its own. It doesn't need to be tied directly into the MCU. You can do so many things. I'm interested to see what Sony, Pascal, and Feige all do with Spider-Man going forward. But No Way Home, slam dunk, absolutely amazing movie. I loved it so freaking much, man. It's still a 5 out of 5 for me, even after the second seeing. The emotions still hit, not as hard as the first time through for me, but everything about it, man, was just magical. And it was the second time. I'm going to see this at least 2 or 3 more times. It's so good. I love this movie. I'm done. I'm going to shut up. It's your turn. If you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, I want to know your thoughts, man. This is a spoiler, fresh out the theater review, so lay them on me, man. What'd you think of the boys showing up? How psyched were you? Did your theater go nuts? Did you like the way that they brought them in? What'd you think of the action sequences and the visuals and the money shots of those 3 guys? What were your favorite moments from the movie? What things popped for you? Anything you got. If you haven't seen the movie and you watch this, what do you got to say? You know what I mean? Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent on Spider-Man No Way Home, down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV shows, trailer, reactions, you want to see my full spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home, you haven't yet, you want to show a little love and support, well, come join C-Maniac Nation, man. It's where all the cool kids are hanging out, and all you got to do is jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. Until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I am signing off and whipping out of here. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.